Hey everyone. For the first part of today's Abbott and Costello double feature, we are starting off with the sequel, their 1947 film, Buck Privates Come Home. Now, after the Second World War has ended, the troops are coming home. However, Slicker Smith, Bud Abbott, and Herbie Brown, Lou Costello, are caught trying to bring home little French orphan girl Yvonne Evie Lebrec, Beverly Simmons, so she is turned over to Nurse Lieutenant Sylvia Hunter, Joan Fulton, until they dock, where she is to be turned over to Immigration Services. Now, due to a mistake, Evie is able to escape there. Meanwhile, Slicker and Herbie have been discharged from the army and go back to their old con of trying to sell ties on the street. Much to their dismay, their Army Sergeant Collins, Nat Pendleton, has also been discharged and returned to his pre-war job as a cop. Now, Evie comes upon Slicker and Herbie as they are about to be arrested by Collins, and they are able to escape together. The three of them go to the French consul, with Evie disguised, where they learn that, in order for Herbie to adopt Evie, he must be married and have a job. Evie suggests Sylvia as a possible romance for Herbie, but when they go visit her, they find her with her boyfriend, Bill Gregory, Tom Brown. Now, Bill suggests that they go in as partners with him on his new midget racing car, which at least allows for income. They try to get a GI loan to help finance it, but the bank turns them down. However, some of their army buddies are willing to help them finance the deal. Of course, Sergeant Collins keeps making trouble for them since Evie should have been deported. Now, after two films where they didn't really work as a team, which was mostly the result of an off-screen feud, Abbott and Costello came back together again for their one and only true sequel, Buck Privates Come Home. Along with their Buck Privates co-star Nat Pendleton returning as Sergeant Collins, Bud and Lou reprised their roles from the earlier film, although Bud's character is now referred to as Slicker instead of Smitty like in the first film. Now, as far as the location shooting for this one, they filmed the race at Gilmore Stadium in LA, and Fort MacArthur in San Pedro, California was used for the scene at Fort Dix. Now, the movie had a pretty good response from audiences, and Bud and Lou will be joined a year later by the writers, producer, and director for what would become one of their biggest and best-known films, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. My own opinion here is that while it's nice to see the boys back together again after their feud, it is not one of their better films. On the one hand, the movie really isn't a musical, but at the same time it gives indications of wanting to be, since it has like one song that's sung a little here and there. Honestly, it lacks the Andrews sisters from the original film to bring in some of the fun. And I'm not sure how to feel about the returning Nat Pendleton. Considering his character was pretty sure of himself and not really prone to getting into trouble in the first film, his overall klutziness just kind of seems out of place here. Although, to be fair, the first film took place before the U.S. entered World War II, and with this film, it's now war's end. Not to mention being stuck with Bud and Lou all that time might be enough to cause trouble for anybody. Now, I don't completely dislike this movie, as it does have its points. Bud and Lou's comedy still seems to come from the situations that they get into, and that still works most of the time, although reusing footage of the drill bit from Buck Privates at the start of the movie, followed up with Lou tripping up again in a similar manner multiple times in the movie, does get a little old. Now, in some respects, it is a nice movie to show us what things are like for their characters several years later, and should be seen at least once to follow up Buck Privates. It may not be equal to Buck Privates by a long shot, but it's still fun enough for me to recommend it. Now, this movie is available on Blu-ray from Shout Factory as part of the 28 film The Complete Abbott and Costello Universal Pictures Collection, and is 1 hour and 17 minutes in length. Well, that should be all I have to say on this one, everybody, so as usual, thanks for listening, and I hope you'll keep tuning in for more.